left Christianity and fundamentalist churches, I remember hearing a doctrine when I was a kid that churches teach its members to blame women if their partner strays or is unfaithful. Now, let me clarify. There's nothing wrong with not being married, not having a monogamous relationship, or doing your own thing. Personally, I prefer not to be married or to have a traditional gender-rolled relationship. But everyone who's an adult, find somebody that wants what you want and consents. And if you're in the 1% that doesn't want romantic relationships or wants a very unique form of relationship, or you just want to be married to yourself, that's perfectly fine. One of the most toxic doctrines of fundamentalist Christianity, especially very prevalent in Baptist churches, is that women hold the honor of every man captive. When a woman admits that her husband cheated, the first thing that usually comes out of people's mouths is, "Are you leaving him? Or what did you do that made him stray?" Regardless of what men do, even if what men do is terrible, which is probably the majority, we always blame women for all of man's faults, intentional behavior, and just being a pig, really. And I'm not saying that all men are pigs. That would be wrong. Any more than all women are trustable, kind, and won't kill you. But 95% of predators are men. I've worked in 29 offices for medical and dental care. Not one office that I've ever worked that had solely female office workers did I ever have a sexual harassment problem. I was never asked out by married men, which is why I choose to work with women-only environments. Now, I'm not saying everyone has to do this or that this is the only best way to live your life. I have found that working in 100% women offices, I never have to worry about having inappropriate relationships with men. There's never a sexual harassment incident in all my years of just being in an office. And I've come to learn from men, and it's not all men, but why does it always feel like it is? I'm not kidding. It is amazing, the statistics of people who cheat and prey on people, whether it's legal or unethical, unprofessional. Why is it 9 out of 10 times a man? Why do men blame women for their inability to keep whatever is going on in their pants or at home? Because nobody wants to see it. Nobody that's professional and wants to succeed in their job force is going to want to do these things. And Christianity, I like to think it's monopolized getting men off of accountability. I mean, you look at MAGA Christians. Who did they reelect? It wasn't Cinderella. It was a rapist, a sex offender, a misogynistic man. A man who's been found guilty in a court of law for sexual assault. Who had to pay all measure of lawsuits in order to pay back women for slander and libel. When our own president does not see women as equal, valuable assets, which doesn't include their bodies or their sex appeal, even though those things matter in the right places and to the right kind of people. Women have always and will always, probably as long as I'm alive, be held captive and blamed for every bad decision men will ever make. And if it didn't hurt women, I'd probably laugh. It's so stupid. What about all those women married to predators who went after kids or vulnerable women? Do you honestly believe that anyone can keep someone from preying? No matter the amount of attention, gifts, sex, physical contact, you could become a doormat for a man, and it would not just keep him from cheating. I actually Googled which gender, which race cheats the most. And it's actually pretty equal. Men don't cheat more than women. Women cheat just as much and just as frequently as any man. Because it's not a gender thing. It's a human being thing. And it's more than just an epidemic. It's because people, and I don't want to excuse cheating, but I firmly believe that if it was normal, celebrated, and mainstream, that people don't get married, that people are polyamorous, open marriages, no monogamy, I think half of the cheating probably wouldn't happen. Because any lifestyle that is adult, consensual, and loving, nobody would lose anything. Nobody, well, most wouldn't hide it. When society forces you, and yes, it's 2025, but for the most part, in countries and religious places, if you don't get married, you can't be in leadership positions. You can't become a politician, for the most part, if you're single or not married. Because marriage and family gives the illusion of respectability. That's why half of known serial killers and violent criminals are married and are religious. It's easier to get away with crime and just being an awful human being if you have the image of respectability. Women are always blamed for men's problems, even though the church believes men are in charge until they have to take accountability, responsibility, or the consequences. Women are not responsible for men cheating. You can be the worst partner or the best partner in the world. You don't deserve to be cheated on. There's no excuse for cheating. There's no excuse for infidelity if you've given your word, privately or publicly, to the monogamous person you're with. All you have to do is say, you know what, I don't want to be in a monogamous traditional relationship. It takes 10 seconds to say that. They want the benefits without losing their live-in mate. And a lot of women in these conservative homes and marriages, they're placeholders. And I can remember my mother counseling cis heterosexual women in church in her own home that found out their husband had a second family, mistresses, a yacht they didn't know about for excursions. You could not dream the stuff that conservative Baptist men could get away with, including touching kids, and not in the I'm a daddy kind of way. Women can sell their souls, hold marriages together, which usually that emotional labor creates autoimmune disorders, depression, and suicidal tendencies. You can give your heart, soul, and your entire life to the image of heterosexuality and marriage and family, and your husband will not be faithful I'm not saying he could be faithful. I'm saying 50% of people on this planet cheat. And there are many ways to cheat. If you give your partner the inclination or agreement that you are monogamous, traditional, married people, and you go to anyone without that person's consent, if you go to anyone else, either visually, emotionally, physically, or professionally, to anyone else, that is cheating. If you wouldn't do it with a smile if your partner was standing there or your family was standing there, that is cheating. And you don't have to be monogamous. You don't have to be anything. You can have 5 baby mamas as long as everyone consented, signed up for, and you financially and morally take responsibility. I don't care what you're doing. Do not give your word you're going to do something and habitually do the opposite on purpose, as premeditated as possible. And you can sell your soul, and your spouse, male or female, doesn't really matter, will not stay faithful. There is nothing you can do to fireproof your marriage. You can have the best marriage on the planet with open communication, love, trust, and little to no expectation, and the person will still cheat. People cheat because they can and because they will. And it says nothing about you. And just because you're a good partner or a bad partner does not mean you deserve to be cheated on. All you have to do is have a conversation to modify your relationship or end it, and then you're not cheating. But people want their cake and eat it too. And regardless of what women sell or give up, is not enough to keep someone from cheating, leaving, or doing it both at the same time. And women, 50% of men and women cheat. I think it's 3 out of 4, but I'm not going to say something unless I have proof. Women are responsible for men unable to keep their hands off people without consent. Women are blamed for everything. The breakdown of America is blamed on women who actually want their own money. So, women take responsibility for when you cheat. Men take responsibility when you cheat. Better yet, don't do it. I've been alive 31 years and I have never wanted to cheat on someone. Of course, I've never been in a relationship, but if I was, I just wouldn't do that. The amount of energy and consistent, high-maintenance behavior required to have a relationship and cheat is extremely stressful. If the average person put that much effort into having a healthy relationship, there would be few marriages or divorces. People would rather waste their time and their hard labor and emotional labor on people who aren't worth it, and never take advantage of givers, because once they no longer have anything to give, they're gone, either emotionally or physically. Men don't cheat more than women. We say they do, so men can get away with it. And, everyone can make their own decisions whether or not they want to forgive cheaters. Personally, I never would. I would rather live by myself, have my own money and my own safety and disease-free than live with somebody who's stabbed me in the back. Because most divorces, murders, and family dramas center around money and adultery. And yeah, I don't like the word adultery because that's the biblical word for a man taking another man's property. There's no excuse to cheat. There's no excuse. Nothing your partner could do or not do will keep you from cheating. You can't fireproof your marriage. You and you alone are responsible for your behavior and what comes out of your mouth. If you can't have integrity, there's nobody in the world that can make you give it or be that. You and you alone are responsible for your actions and how you make people feel, especially if you try to hurt people. There is nothing less attractive to me than a cheater, except for a predator. They're pretty close. And I don't really give people one chance. So cheating for me is a deal breaker. My health and my sanity are worth more than an anniversary or a relationship. People are lucky if I give them one chance. You don't get a second. And that's why you have conversations when you get into relationships or situationships. If someone says cheating is a non-negotiable, then they've told you up front they will not take it. And even if they don't, you really shouldn't try it. It's not okay. It's not acceptable. And once my respect and attraction is gone, it's not coming back. I don't find cheaters attractive or arousing. And everyone has their non-negotiables. But women should not be blamed for man's lack of self-control. And in my opinion, if a Christian man, or any man in general, says he's religious and has not mastered self-control, the Bible would call him an infidel. Men who cannot control themselves and take accountability are worse than unbelievers. Of course, now that's usually where I expect to find these things. Church. The things that cis heterosexual wives would say about their husbands. If I wrote a book about it, it would be MA. The things I have heard that cis heterosexual Christian men do to their wives. The weaponized incompetence, the cheating, the second family, the STIs, the intentional infecting. Spending $400,000 on a boat that she doesn't know about so he could take people on it that she doesn't know about. People who get cheated on, you know in your gut if someone isn't trustworthy. And it's not your fault when people show you who they are. Believe it and move on. Do not stay for your kids because you're showing them what women should be treated, how women should be treated, and how men treat women. And that's not any lesson you want your kids to find out. What you allow near your kids sets up the next generation to resemble. I would rather be alone, happy, and enjoying life than making a house of cards, also known as a cheating relationship. So what can we do to prevent women from feeling like they're the reason why men cheat? Well, we need to start teaching men to consistently take accountability for their choices. We need to remove ourselves from institutions of power that are run exclusively by men. We need to embrace new ways of thinking that shows that men don't get to be in charge just because they're men. You have to prove that you are worthy of being in charge. And if the best person for the job is a gay person, an African American, a Latino, or a woman, that's the person who should be in charge. And if it happens to be a Caucasian cis man, fine. We need to reject the patriarchy. Any institution that abides by the idea that men should be in charge because they're divinely selected, or that all men are naturally good leaders. They're not. If that were true, Hitler would have been a decent human being. And Saddam Hussein would have been a good leader. We need to stop teaching women that they are responsible for everyone's good time, that women are responsible for everything men do, and that if women do 1/10 of the crap men pull, that men's honor is lost. There are countries around the world that actually kill women through honor killings because they pull 1/10 or even less than what crap men pull. If men don't have to be virgins to get married, neither should women. If women who almost tear their bodies apart, getting autoimmune diseases, depression, anxiety, just to make sure men are comfortable, that does not protect them from men who see them like transactions. We need to teach women to not settle for anything below what they want. And if a man won't or can't give it to them, leave them. Do not settle, because when you settle, your partner can feel it. Women, trust your gut. You know if someone is decent or not. And stop giving so much. Match what the other person's interest in consistent behavior is. And if that is bare minimum, leave. Women need to stop being the emotional providers. Stop giving and tearing your body apart to carry relationships. If a man's not doing his share, you don't have a relationship. You have codependency or an abusive relationship. Women are responsible for their choices. We don't teach women how to find decent men. Our media, the way we teach girls that men are saviors and that women are responders, teaches women not to desire what's good for them. Media and entertainment makes women want bad boys. Those are not the kind of people that will be faithful long-term partners or someone you can rely on if you're not into long-term partnership. Society does everything it can to teach women how to put themselves last and how to be a man's arm candy. And until the religions and every pinnacle of the patriarchy no longer teaches that men's activity, men's behavior, and men's survival and happiness hinges on how much free labor a woman does, how much she gives, like triple what he even gives. We need to just reject the bad things in our society. It's not good for women. Luckily, 1 out of 5 women aren't getting married and having kids anymore because they've found that they're happier without another child in their life. And by child, I mean a spouse. Women are not responsible and men are not responsible for their partner cheating. Your behavior has nothing to do with if he has integrity and if he keeps his word. If you're the kind of people that I honestly believe have a higher IQ and just skip the whole monogamy and marriage part and have polyamory, open relationships, which require more communication and maturity, you don't have to worry if people are cheating on you. Because you have so many other options. If somebody decides they're not going to keep their word, you can leave. Women aren't responsible for anything men do. We're responsible for our own mistakes and our own choices. And women who have a higher IQ are less likely to choose bad partners, and they're more likely not to want to have kids. Who wants to work all day and then come home and work for free for another shift? Our ancestors had to do it, but we don't. We don't have to do anything like that anymore. And I'm sure there are people out there that are forced to based on what location in the world you are. But if you're in a Western country that gives women options, stop choosing the option that makes almost everyone miserable that's in it. Because you deserve better. Which is why I'm 31, 4B, single, and don't have kids. My family calls me selfish all the time. But of course, I don't spend 30 years of my life saying that my kids made my hair turn white, like my mother did. So, you can't fireproof your marriage. You can't make someone faithful. You can up your chances of having a scumbag partner based on where you meet them, what person you choose to be attracted to. And by choose, I mean hairstyle, and I'm not talking about gender. I'm talking within your orientation. You can choose the kind of people you date. And sometimes you have to grow up to realize what's good for you and what's not. Luckily, we have YouTube, where I can pick the brains of women who've been married 3 times and lived 60 years on this planet. And the first thing that ever comes out of their mouth is, stay single. Do not get married. And they're onto something. The happiest people are the people who are as far away from conservative gender role expectations as possible. And women, if you are cis and hetero, if you choose to have a traditional marriage and a traditional partner of the opposite sex, you are the group of people with the lowest stats of any kind of satisfaction on this planet. You might want to think twice about doing something or having a life that has been proven to make most of the women miserable. So, the only person responsible for cheating is the person in a relationship who cheats. It would be a great world if there was no other woman or other man involved. But we're adults. And if you can't control yourself or what's in your pants, that makes you a liability.